Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, which is the third video in the playlist for implementing the Sweet Shop application design with Flutter, I intended to continue implementing this application and implement the page related to the shopping cart section. In the first and second videos of this playlist, I implemented the page related to splash, home, categories, and also the product details screen according to the Figma design, which you can see in the video. If you haven't seen the previous videos and if you intended to implement the project, you can watch the previous videos first from the playlist section or via the link I provided in the description section, and then watch this video. I've also placed the link to the Figma design in the description so that you can use the design and export the required images and assets. I've also placed the project up to this point on GitHub and will add the GitHub link so you can use it if needed. So let's implement the shopping cart section of the project together. First, I need to add the necessary directories for this section to the project. I'll create a directory for the shopping cart, and then inside it, I'll create another directory for the data section. Now inside the data section, I'll create another directory for the data source, and inside this section, I'll create the necessary folders for local data and models. And now inside the models directory, I add two models, one for the product and one for the cart items. As you can see inside the product model, I created a class for the product, which includes the parameters you see in the video. The other model also includes the product parameter and the product quantity, which is used for shopping cart items. And now inside the local directory, I create a fake class for the list of products, which in a real project is usually sent from the server to the application. Very well. Now I create another directory for the presentation section, which includes the Bloc directory, the screens directory, and the widgets directory. And now inside the Bloc directory, I'll create a new Cubit for managing the shopping cart. Very well. Now I go to the Cubit state file, and inside this file, I add the necessary states for initializing, loading, and handling errors for the shopping cart. And now I go to the class related to the Cubit itself. And as you can see in the video, I add the necessary variables and methods for loading the cart, adding an item to the cart, decreasing and increasing item quantities, removing items from the cart, and also other required operations like clearing the cart. Very well. Now I go to the main file and call the Cubit class that I just added to the project. And as you can see in the video, I provide it. And then I also call its method for loading the shopping cart. Now in the home section, I go to the product details screen and add a method for adding a product randomly from the fake product list I added to the shopping cart section. As you can see, inside this method, a product is selected randomly using the random.nextInt method and added to the cart. And finally, a snack bar informs the user that the product has been added. And now in the unpressed section related to the add to cart button, I call the method I created and then add a few products to the cart. Now I go to the shopping cart tab and start implementing this section. Inside the screens directory, I'll create a screen for the shopping cart, and inside this file, I'll add a new stateful class. As you can see inside this class, I call the app scaffold widget, which is similar to Flutter's built-in scaffold widget, with the difference that it includes a safe area and also limits the screen width on larger screens. You can use the scaffold instead of this widget. This widget has a default internal padding that I need to set to 0. So I do that, and then I'll pass the general app bar that I created earlier to this widget. And now I'm going to hide the back icon. Now I go to the class I previously created for the bottom navigation of the project and pass the class I just created to it. And now I reload the project so you can see the result. And after that, I start implementing the body of this screen. First, using the Bloc provider widget, I call the Cubit class we build and import the required classes. Then I'll start implementing it. First, I check if the cart is the initial state. I show a loading indicator in the center of the screen to the user. Otherwise, if the cart is in the error state, I display the error text to the user. And finally, if the cart has loaded correctly, I should display the shopping cart to the user. To do this, I first check if the cart is empty. I show a cart icon along with the text to the user, so they understand they haven't added any products to their cart. I import the required classes. And now I rerun the project so you can see the result. Now I go back to the product details screen to add a few products to the cart and then start implementing the cart list. Very well, now I place a column widget and then go to the widgets directory to create a new widget for displaying the list of products in the shopping cart. After creating the file, I first import the material package and then create a stateless class with the same name as the file. Now I create a variable for the list of products that should be displayed in the shopping cart. Now I add the list view builder widget and set its item count equal to the product items. And now I start implementing its item builder parameter. Inside this parameter, first I'll place a padding widget and set a vertical and horizontal spacing. As you can see, I use the demons class that I created earlier for this. Now inside the padding widget, I place a row widget and set the spacing between its items and set its cross-axis alignment parameter to start. And now inside it, I place a size box widget, set its height and width, and then inside it, I'll use the clip rect widget to round the corners of the image and then show the product image with the image asset widget. And finally, I set the fit parameter to the product image. Now I return to the shopping cart screen and first place a expanded widget, and inside it I call the widget we just built and pass the cart products to it. And now I reload the project and you can see the image. Very well, now let's implement the product title and rating section together. First, inside the cart list widget, I call the project's color and typography related classes. Then inside an expanded widget, I'll place a column widget and set its required parameters. Very well, and now I'll place a row widget and set its main axis alignment parameter to space between. And now inside it, I add a widget to display the product name and then style it. And now I call the rate widget that we built earlier to display the product rating and pass the product rating to it. And now I reload the project so you can see the result. Very well, now let's continue implementing this section. To do this, I place another row widget and inside it an expanded widget and inside it a column widget. And then show the product's weight and price. And finally, I reload the project again. Very well, now let's implement the cart actions section. For this, I'll create another new file in the widgets folder. And as you can see in the video, I add the required class and all the widgets needed to display the product quantity in the cart and buttons to decrease and increase this quantity. And as you can see, inside the buttons, I created for decreasing and increasing the product quantity. I have called and used the respective methods from the Cubit class. Very well, now I return to the previous class and call the class we just built. I import this class and pass the product to it. And finally, I reload the project so you can see the result. Alright, now let's implement the cart finalization section together. In addition to the finalization button, in this section, I also intended to display the total price of the products in the cart. For this, I go back to the shopping cart screen and inside the column widget, first using the padding widget and add horizontal spacing. And then inside it, I place another column widget And then with the size box widget, I add another spacing. Now I add a row, and inside it I display the total price of the products in the cart. And now below this row I place a button for finalizing the cart, complete its parameters, and style it. And now I reload the project so you can see the result. Very well, now let's make the improvements needed to finalize this screen. As you can see, the product image needs more space on the side, and we also need a line as a separator between the items. So I'll apply these changes. First, I add some spacing and reload the project. Now in the products general widget section, I define a new file titled app divider, and as you can see in the video, I add the required code to it. This widget is the Flutter divider widget, slightly customized. Now I return to the previous class and change the list view builder widget to list view separated, implement the separator builder parameter, and add the app divider widget to it. And finally, I reload the project again, and you can see the final result of this screen. Now let's implement the delete item for a cart section. For this, I intended to use the dismissible widget, and as you can see in the video, I implement this widget. After calling this widget, I gave it a key created from the product ID, and then implement its background parameter, and in its background I show a trash icon and style it. Dismiss the method of the dismissible widget, and inside it I call the remove item method and pass the ID of the product that should be deleted to it. And now I run the project so you can see the result. And as you can see, when a product is deleted, the cart total also decreases. Very well. Now let's implement the proceed to checkout screen. For this, in the screen section, I create a new file named proceed to checkout screen and add the code for an empty screen along with a button for continuing the payment process at the bottom of the screen to this file. And now I return to the shopping cart and call the app push method. This method internally uses Flutter's navigator method, and inside it I call the screen I just built and pass it to this method. Now I reload the project and navigate to the screen I just created. Very well, now let's implement the payment details section. For this, first I create a new file in the project's general widgets folder. Now inside this file I implement a widget that is essentially a built-in Flutter a container widget that has a border around it according to the Figma design. Now I return to the previous class, and inside the column widget I add some spacing and then call the class we just created and then pass another column widget to it and also set its padding parameter. And then inside the column widget, I add the title related to the payment details. And now I reload the project. Now let's implement the items related to the payment details. For this, inside the widgets directory, I add a new file that should display the title and the amount. Now I return to the previous class and call the widget I built and pass the first title and amount to it. And I reload the project. And now I add the rest of the items and reload the project again. Very well, now let's implement this dashed line between the discount and the total. As you know, implementing this element is not possible using Flutter's built-in widgets, and we need to either add a package or do it using other methods. Therefore, I do this with a simple trick. Now let's implement the address section. I call the border container widget again, and inside it, using the padding widget, I add vertical spacing. And inside it, I place a row widget and set its main axis alignment parameter. And then I'll add the title destination address to it. And now let's implement the change address button. For this, I call the widget again, set its border color equal to the project's primary color, and inside it, I place an inkwell widget, set its border radius, and finally, inside it, I'll display the required text. I reload the project so we can see the result. As you can see, the border radius parameter of the bordered container widget needs to be reduced. So I do this and run the project again. Now let's implement the address that is displayed below. For this, I first add an app divider widget, then use the list style widget and set its internal padding to 0. And now in its leading parameter, I show a location icon colored with the project's primary color. And now in its title parameter, I'll display the address text and reload the project. As you can see, the spacing has some issue, which I fix and reload again. Now let's implement the list of ordered products. Since we already implemented the product list in different sections, with different designs. I won't repeat this task, and after some spacing, show the title orders list and then display the product list. And finally, I reload the project. As you can see, a line needs to be displayed between the title and the products, so I do this as well. I reload the project again. And again. So you can see the final result of this screen too. Alright, now let's implement the change address screen together. For this, inside the screens directory, I'll create a new file in this directory and add the code for an empty screen along with a button for applying the selected address. Now I return to the previous class and call the address selection screen in the relevant section. Now I reload the project and navigate to the new screen we just created. Now let's implement this screen. For this, first add a list of titles. And now I use a list-view.separator widget to display the titles and their addresses. And as you can see in the video, I configure the required parameters of this widget. And now in the separator builder parameter, I add the app divider widget and then start implementing the item builder parameter. First, I place an equal widget and inside it a column widget. And I set its cross-axis alignment parameter. And now inside the column widget, I use a list style widget. I set its internal padding to 0 and then show the location icon. And now in the title widget, I display the title related to the addresses. And now in the trailing parameter, I call the radio widget and configure its parameters. I reload the project and you can see the result. Now let's display the address. For this, below the list style widget, I place a padding widget and display the address with the required styling. And finally, I reload the project again. Very well. Now let's implement the Add New Address section. For this, I need to use the dotted border package, so I must first add it to the project. For this, I go to the pubspec.yaml file and add the required package to this file, and then run the flutter pubget command to add the package to the project. Now I must return to the previous class and start implementing this item. First, below the list of addresses, I add some spacing and then add a size box widget and set its width parameter. And now I call the dotted border widget, and as you can see in the video, proceed to implement its parameters. And finally, I added the text add new address as clickable inside this widget. And now I reload the project so you can see the final result of this screen as well. Excellent. Thank you for watching this video and the other videos in this playlist up to this point. I hope it has been helpful for you. I don't intend to continue this playlist, and this playlist ends here. However, I will implement the remaining sections of the project and push their code to GitHub. I will place the GitHub link in the project description section. You can use it if needed. I will see you again in the next video.